Kind of get situated here.
Are you situated? Okay.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Smokey Steve and Marc. I am Marc, and this is my own segment, Mondays with Marc. Thank you all for joining me tonight. It's nice to see everybody. I thought tonight we would take a little more of a serious note on Mondays with Marc. Last week we did a tour of Scranton, which I hope everybody enjoyed. I promised everybody that since this was National Arthritis Month that I would perhaps do a video talking about arthritis, explaining what it is, because it is a disease that affects me personally, not only physically, but it also was in my family. My mother, my grandmother, both grandfathers, they all had arthritis too. And I do remember back then just not taking it seriously. I remember my grandmother, always saying she ached and, she was in pain and this and that. And I mean, of course, I never made fun of her or anything like that, but I never really took it seriously. It just was like a normal thing that my grandmother was in pain, and it never crossed my mind twice until I was diagnosed with it and I experienced it myself and I realized what she was going through. So I think that it's pretty important to spread the word about arthritis and get more awareness about it. And I also think that my doing this, I'm not your typical arthritic person. I'm a little bit younger, I'm a male, and I think if somebody perhaps sees this video, who might be in the same demographics as me, they might maybe relate a little bit, because one of the most common misconceptions of arthritis is that it's an old person's disease, and that's entirely false. I do have my trusty little clipboard here because I didn't want to, I wrote some notes down because I wanted to make sure I stayed on topic and that I had the facts correct, But when we post this video, we're going to put some links in the comments, so if you have, if you want any more information, just click one of those links and there's just a wealth of information out there. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what those are later, but that will be in the comments below. By no means am I an expert on this. I'm not. I only recently was diagnosed with arthritis, and I have a couple forms of it. But I did want to spread a little bit of awareness about it. So I'm going to keep referring to my notes here so I can stay on track and not, talk forever like I am known to do, right? Anyway, so what is arthritis? Basically, arthritis literally means joint inflammation, and it's a disease that causes inflammation. And there are over 100 different types of arthritis as well, which I found pretty interesting. It causes pain and stiffness in your joints and your extremities. It can cause, and here, let me stay on topic here. Yes, it worsens over time. There's no cure for it. It can also affect other areas of your body too, other organs, your skin, your heart, your kidneys. It's not just limited to your joints. Another thing I found pretty interesting, it affects people of all ages, all races, any sex. It definitely does not discriminate. In the U.S. alone, there's over 50 million people diagnosed with a form of arthritis, and over 300,000 children have arthritis too. Another staggering fact, I thought. It's the leading cause of disability in the U.S. I thought that was interesting. There are treatments, but there's no cure, and the treatments can range. We'll get into treatments later. I have that a little bit later. Let's see, it affects your joints, like your knees, your hips, your fingers, but also other areas we already talked about, other connective tissues, and your organs, and especially can affect your eyes too, as it did in my case. An interesting fact about arthritis, it can be traced as far back as 4500 BC. They found some writings in some ancient texts, but the most official tracing back was to 123 AD in a text that was found after they did some research on skeletal remains of Native Americans in Tennessee. So that was pretty cool to learn about that. I'm a geek for like interesting facts like that. I thought that was totally fascinating that they did that. I said there's over 100 types of arthritis. Some of the most common ones are OA, which is osteoarthritis. There's RA, which is rheumatoid arthritis, gout, psoriatic arthritis. There's also lupus, fibromyalgia. There's a lot of different types, and I'm going to talk just about 2 of them today, the 2 that affect me. I already went over some of the symptoms, and one of the questions that I had gotten is, when should I see a doctor? Now, I'm not a doctor, and I hate giving advice about that, but in my opinion, when you should see a doctor is, I think it's important to mention that, joint pain and muscle pain, on occasion is totally normal and is okay. But I think that if it worsens or does not go away, it's time to see a doctor, most definitely. And when what else do I have down here? Pain that won't go away or worsens. Oh, yes, if you have relatives that have arthritis or like autoimmune diseases of any sort, and you couple that up with having pain that won't go away in your joints, definitely see a doctor. Physical signs you can see sometimes, they call them like knobby hands or knobby fingers. That's a sign. Sometimes you have a little lump forming back here. If you just cannot get your posture straight, if your, your default setting is like this, I don't know, you may want to see a doctor. And if you go to the doctor, you'll be seeing a rheumatologist. Probably you would start with your general practitioner, and then he would refer you to a rheumatologist. But a rheumatologist will specialize in arthritic conditions. The rheumatologist will be the one who will diagnose that for you. And how they diagnose it is with let's see, a lot of different, the blood tests, all kinds of imaging, x-rays, MRIs. They may take, as in my case, fluid from your joints or your spine, like a spinal tap, before they can officially diagnose it. And a lot of it is ruling everything else out, as was in my case. They had to rule all kinds of other things out. The treatments for all of arthritis is, there's little differences between all of them, but the treatments include medications. There's all different type of medications. Pain management. If you want to have any type of quality of life, you'll have to learn how to manage your pain in some way. And also you want to prevent permanent damage as well. That's another thing. Medications can help with that too. Weight is an important factor. Losing weight, at least maintaining a healthy weight. Physical therapy helps. And then in some cases, surgery too, in extreme cases. That's another form of treatment for it. Medications, there's all different types of medications. They range from just painkillers, either over-the-counter or prescription painkillers, which I do not take. I take over-the-counter, but I won't take a prescription painkiller due to my addiction background. And there's NSAIDs, that's non-steroidal anti-inflammatories to help reduce and control inflammation. There's steroids. Steroids all control inflammation, but then you have to worry about some side effects with steroids, weight gain, mood swings, things like that. There's what I'm on, DMARDs. It's disease-modifying anti-rheumatic medications. It literally gets in there and tries to modify the disease in some way. And then there's also biologics. I haven't experienced those yet, but I do know a couple people who are on them. I mean, these type of drugs are, they're no joke. They actually are made from a living organism, and then it mimics your own body's response to the disease. It's kind of scary to me, but again, I don't have experience in that. But those are the different types of medications that they use for it. There's also alternative forms too that you can use to help control or treat this disease. Everything from acupuncture to massage, yoga, supplements. One of the medications I'm on, reduces bone mass over time. So I try to take calcium to try to keep that up. I also take turmeric and fish oil. They're known to have anti-inflammatory properties to them. So those are some different alternative methods there. So now I can get rid of these notes. I've always feel like I'm not really talking to you when I'm reading from my notes. But anyway, I did want to get the facts straight. But in my opinion, living with this disease, what can I do? What can you do if you have this disease? I personally think that educating yourself on the disease should be like right up top there. Learn all you can about it and learn about all the ways that you can deal with it and manage it. Make sure that you get active with an exercise routine, maybe taking a walk, whatever. Stretching has been just a lifesaver for me. Stretching is so underrated, and I just think that even if you don't have arthritis, you should be stretching every day. Control your weight. Definitely do not put off treatment. If treatment is recommended, you really need to do it, because this is a progressive disease and you will do permanent damage to your joints if you don't get treatment or take care of it. I think another important thing is a positive attitude too. At the beginning of all this with me, my attitude was in the gutter, and my quality of life just was not good. A positive attitude, definitely. I think that's all I have for that. I also put down here, spread the word about it, because there is no cure right now, but I believe someday we should have a cure for it. The only way that can happen is to bring awareness to this disease, really. So spread the words. Some common misconceptions about arthritis. I already said that the number one misconception is that it's an old person's disease. That is entirely false. Granted, the majority of people with some form of arthritis are 55 and older. There's just as many people 55 and younger that have it as well. They just separate them into different ages, Arthritis is induced by a cold and wet climate. Professionals will say that is absolutely false, although warmth can help ease some of the symptoms of it. Everyone says, oh, I have arthritis, I'm going to go move somewhere warm and I'll feel better. Well, you may, but the people who live in a warm climate feel good too, So, I'm not going to say that, warmth doesn't help it, because it does, and it does for me too. Arthritis can be cured. It cannot be cured. Arthritis is caused by a poor diet. Also, untrue. Although, changing your diet to include foods that help with inflammation can help as well. And just in general, keep you healthy, And arthritis is a hopeless disease. You are doomed. Absolutely untrue. I felt that way at the beginning when I mentioned about a positive attitude. I felt that way at the beginning. It is not true. Through treatments and through community support and having a positive attitude, it is not a hopeless disease. It's not. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my story with this disease, because I think it's an interesting one. And another question is, what is a flare? Mine actually started with a flare, so I know what a flare is. A flare is actually defined as let's see here. A flare is defined as an episode of increased disease activity or worsening of symptoms. And that is absolutely true. One day I woke up like this and I couldn't move. There was no warning, no nothing, and it lasted for 3 days. That's considered a flare. It's followed by a period of either inactivity or reduced activity in the disease. So when your disease spikes, that's called a flare, and you never know when they're going to hit. It sucks. But through medication and therapy, they can be controlled and sometimes even eliminated. I haven't had a flare now for 5 months, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But, my story with arthritis began almost 2... Anyway, it did. It started about 2 years ago, and I remember I woke up one day and I didn't feel right. I just felt stiff, and I just like overall I just didn't feel right, you know. And as the day progressed, it got worse. And by, I'm gonna say, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I don't remember. I was laying on the floor of Stephen's mother's house in so much pain. I felt like I was being squeezed by a bear. My hands were like this, you know, and I had never experienced that before. And then it had subsided and it had went away, and I didn't know. I just chalked it up to something strange. A few weeks later, I had woke up in the morning again in so much pain down my neck and in my arm, and it was very difficult to move. Walking up and down the steps were, gosh, almost impossible, you know, and I thought, oh, I just slept wrong. Maybe I pinched a nerve, you know, something like that, because again, it did subside. And then I started losing sight in my right eye, and rather rapidly too. And Stephen actually made me go to the eye doctor. I didn't want to go, but I started getting worried because, I mean, you know, it was getting worse like by the week, very quickly. I by the time I made it to the eye doctor, I really, everything was blurry. I couldn't read. I couldn't do anything with my right eye. The eye doctor gave me an exam and said that he couldn't do anything for me, that I needed to go to an eye specialist, and that he saw a cataract in there, but he said there is an underlying problem that I'm not sure. I have inflammation in there. So I went to a specialist, and he did diagnose me with a cataract in that eye and the starting of a cataract in my left eye, uveitis, amongst other things. There was one, uveitis and something else. I can't remember what it was called. But basically it came down to I had inflammation in my eye. I think my optic nerve was inflamed or something like that. So he put me on megadose of prednisone, 80 milligrams a day, and I was on that for almost 6 months. I blew up like a balloon, you know, I had balloon face. And but it seemed to help with the inflammation. It at least got it down far enough where he did the surgery and removed the cataract, and that went well. But they still could not find the source of the uveitis, and so all these words were thrown out: sarcoidosis, Behçet's, MS, all these different autoimmune diseases. And the next 12 months were like test after test after test after test, from, you know, MRIs and blood tests. I had a sleep test. I had pulmonary tests, all kinds of stuff. And they were just ruling things out, you know. And finally was introduced to my rheumatologist, who I have now, and I really like him. And I was diagnosed with RA, rheumatoid arthritis, and OA, osteoarthritis. And currently I am still undergoing some tests to rule out some other things or whatever, but those are my two official diagnoses right now. I am on the medication Plaquenil, and I will be on it 6 months on June 10th. And apparently that's the time frame where they can perform some other tests to rule some other things out or whatever. But I believe I responded pretty well to the medication. I already said I haven't had a flare-up since January, and I haven't. And the times that I'm achy and stiff, it's not quite as intense as it was before the medication. I also still have prednisone for breakthrough pain and when I have bad days. I'm not saying it's all like, you know, all roses and everything, but it is a lot better than it was, and I do have some quality of life back now, which I'm extremely grateful for, you know. But I will say that if, you know, you're going through this, or you may be starting to go through this or whatever, try not to get discouraged with all the testing and everything. Everyone who I've ever talked to that has had anything to do with arthritis, they've had these tests, and some people, they weren't diagnosed for years and years. Unfortunately, that's common with this disease. It takes a long time to be diagnosed with it. Once diagnosed, you know, you can start treatment of some sort, you know, but up until that time, it's test after test, and sometimes enduring some unpleasant things that you don't want to endure, if you know what I mean. But I am responding to the medication. I also am doing physical activity, physical therapy. I'm doing exercises that strengthen my neck muscles and my spine muscles, and the stretching protocol has helped a lot. I'm also taking supplements. I take turmeric, fish oil, calcium, and then a broad range of vitamins, like a multivitamin as well. So, I'm not exactly sure which one of those things did the trick or if it's a combination of all of them, but I'm continuing to do it because it has worked. I also know that my life has changed when I got this disease, if that's proper. My life did change, and because it is a life-changing disease. I now have to pace myself. I've learned to listen to my body, and I think that's an important thing to remember too when you have this. You have to listen to your body. I used to go, 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 go. At the beginning of this, I would work, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and like it. I mean, I'm a very work-oriented person, and I take pride in my job, and I love what I do. I love being a chef. I cannot work like that anymore, and so I had to reduce my schedule, and that's what I did, and it seems to be working out now. I found a balance of the number of hours that I can work. My leisure activities, you all know I love working out in the garden. About an hour is when I have to come back in and take a break, because I just can't, continue on doing that, or else I'll be in a lot of pain. I had to, the turning point for me was, and I guess this will be a tip, I have down here, what are my tips to help people, because I kind of want to, give you some tips of what worked for me. What I have to say, the turning point for me was when I finally accepted the situation. I accepted my diagnosis. I accepted the fact that my life is not going to be the same as it was before. What can I do moving forward, and my positive attitude. I had to find that somewhere. I had to switch all that. I had to gain acceptance, and I had to get a positive attitude, or I was going to have no quality of life at all. And it did change things for me. So once I kind of looked at it a different way, I was able to find out the things that I can do. I can still work. I can still take pride in my job and the things that I do. I just have to, pace myself and know when to quit and know when to give myself a break. If I kept pushing myself, the outcome would not be good, So that was the one tip that I had specifically wrote out on my notes here to say, because, when you're diagnosed with something like that and you know that your life is going to change, it's very, very easy to sink into depression and give up and not want to deal with it. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to run away. And then I realized, where was I going to run away to? Well, I take me with me, So anyway, that was that. Because, when this first started, I had to call off work, and I'm not a call offer. Never. I never call off work. But I was calling off, and I was calling off more and more frequently. Now, lucky enough that I have a fantastic boss, and he was very supportive. To this day, is very supportive about it. He never once made me feel bad. He never once said, you need a doctor's excuse. You need da-da-da. Of course he was disappointed in the situation, but not with me personally or with my disease. So I think communication with your employer, communication with your family members and friends, and let them know what's going on, I think is also very important. Because one of the things at the beginning I felt was extremely lonely. That all changed once I accepted it and opened up and shared with what was going on with me. I think that was it about the beginning of all of that, and how, my journey has gone so far. It certainly is not an ending. It's an ongoing thing. Like I said, there's no cure, and it's progressive, so that means it's lifelong. I will have this my whole life. But there is hope out there, and I think if there's anything that I can leave you with, is that one thing, that there absolutely is hope. One day there will be a cure for this, and it is a manageable disease if you do the things you need to do to manage it, beginning with acceptance and a positive attitude with it. If I can answer any questions for you, please, send me a message, maybe comment below. I said I'm no expert. I only can, tell you about my experience and what worked for me and the research I've done. I did some Googling research. I also spoke with my rheumatologist. I told him I was going to make a video, and he gave me some pointers and things like that. We're going to put some links in the bottom of the comments for you to click on. One of them is the Arthritis Foundation. A wealth of information there. There's also going to be a link down there for my RA team. It's an online resource community, and you can join groups if you want on that community or not, and you can talk with each other on there, other people with arthritis. That one is not only just for our rheumatoid arthritis, although it says my RA team. People with fibro, lupus, all kinds of autoimmune diseases and any other type of arthritis are on that forum. And it really was the first place that an outreach for me, and I was able to talk back and forth with people who also had this disease, and it helped me a lot. And there'll be a couple other links down there too for you. I also, some people who have watched our videos have reached out to me, and I've been talking to them about it too. So don't underestimate, the power of a community. It really helped me, and I think that it would help you too if you're going through this. So anyway, I hope I didn't talk your ear off. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope maybe you got a little bit from it, maybe some information, maybe some tips on where to go or what to do. I guess that's it. I'm just trying to think if I forgot anything. I don't think I did. But anyway, thank you again for watching. Please, please, please hit the subscribe button and hit the alert button so you know anytime we have a new video. We do try to film at least once a day, and we've kept true to that. Steven will be back tomorrow.
Hey.
He's here right now. He's behind the scenes today.
Incognito.
Incognito, yes. He's my cameraman today. But yes, please subscribe, hit the alert bell, follow us on Instagram, and please send us a friend request to our Facebook page, SmokeySteveAndMarc. I will be posting a lot of tips and information about arthritis for this month, National Arthritis Month, on our Facebook page, as well as photos, and I do my little sweepstakes thing on there. It's a lot of fun. So please send us a friend request on Facebook. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye. Was that all right?